Okay, so once again, we're going to go into what we call here the college essay, and we know that the college essay is a very important part of your application when it comes to applying to schools, especially for international students. They want to know how you could write and think analytically, and we'll go into that. But before we go into that, what I want to do, I want to go into around 20 to 25 things that will definitely get your application flagged. Definitely. And you wouldn't believe some of these are self-explanatory, but people still try to find ways to get shortcuts. And that's another thing. There are ways where you can do things more efficient, but in the long run, trying to take shortcuts to get to your goal, it's usually something that will hinder you in the long run. So be careful about these shortcuts and people that go and guarantee that they're going to get you into the best schools in America or the best schools here and there. When people are guaranteeing things, I'm always a little bit skeptical about that. And that's even the same when it talks about college admissions. But the one thing that I will say is that there are so many schools in America that, there are many choices that you could find. And maybe you might not get your top choice, but you might get your third or your fourth choice if you follow some of the procedures we talk about. So first up, let's talk about the first thing. The first thing that you can do that will most likely will get your essay tossed out is when you try to be someone else. So let's say, for example, instead of you being yourself, you're trying to take on a persona of somebody else. Basically, you're lying. You're doing like another identity, So you're trying to be Spider-Man when you're not. Something like that. So don't try to be someone else. It's not going to work. And it's hard to write about somebody that's not yourself because you're going to be caught in so many lies and different narrations. It's not going to be a good thing for you. So please don't do that. The second thing is choosing a topic that sounds good but that you don't care about. So for example, you might want to write about fish in the ocean, but you can't stand fish in the ocean, but you just think that it's a good topic because the people want to hear about that. Now, here's a heads up on that one. When you write about something that you aren't interested in and you don't have a care about, it's going to reflect in your writing. It's going to reflect in the quality of what you're writing. So what will happen is that in the long run, the admissions committee will pick that out and they'll pretty much, just toss that to the side. All right. Another thing is, let's say number 3, not thinking before writing. Not thinking before writing. If you think you're just going to jump down there and write something from the top of your head without thinking, without planning it out, without doing any preparation, you're going to end up having a very, very, very bad essay. So please take some time and think it out. And don't feel shy to ask other people suggestions, maybe your parents or maybe other students. But please don't just think you're going to jump in there and write anything and they're going to accept it. The fourth one, not answering the questions, okay? The questions is asking about trees in Florida and you're talking about guinea pigs in China. You're not sticking to the topic. So when you're not sticking to the topic, what happens is that your admissions committee looks and says, listen, not only, did they not follow directions, what we told them what to do, but imagine how this kid is going to be when he comes to university. He can't follow instructions, all right? Number 5, not sharing something about yourself. All right. So remember, the admission essay is usually a way for you to talk about yourself, some of your highs, some of your lows, and put it in a fashion where people are interested. These people want to know about you, especially the international students, because international students, for example, they're different. They have different experiences. And the American colleges want to hear about these experiences. They want to know about these experiences. All right. Next one, forgetting who your readers are. And that's self-explanatory. You're writing to an admissions committee. You're not writing to your friends. You're not writing to your parents. You're writing to an admissions committee. So they're going to be looking for different things. They're going to be concerned about grammar, consistency, and things like that. It's not like just writing a shopping list for your parents. This is very serious here. All right. 7, tackling too much of your life. All right. You only have a few hundred words to write. All right. So you can't put your whole life story in these essays. So you're going to have to learn how, as we say in America, to trim the fat, put the information in, which is important. You start tackling too much. Another thing what's going to do is going to put you back to the other number we talked about is you're going to start veering off topic. You're going to start talking about things that no one wants to hear about. The essay is on life in your country, and you end up talking about the new bicycle you bought last week. All right. Having a boring introduction. Now, this is very important because even in a book, if you're a writer, a boring introduction will have people not even want to read the rest of the essay. So you have to learn how to captivate the audience in the first couple of sentences. You only have one shot. So if you miss it on that first time, they're going to be a little bit reluctant to read the rest of the essay, and which is sad because I've seen many essays where they were great essays, but the first 3 sentences, they weren't good. And people kind of lost interest by then. All right. Latching on to an issue that you don't really care about. And that's kind of goes into, what we talked about before. I think that was like, the second, point we went over. It's kind of similar, but, this is one of the things that was reiterated here, but latching on to an issue. So let's say if you're writing these essays and you're constantly just referring to an issue that you don't really care about, it's going to reflect in your writing. You're not going to have the passion to write about these things, to write something good about it, if it's something that you truly don't care about. All right. 10, resorting to gimmicks. Gimmicks, like we said, shortcuts, little things like that, basically almost like cheating or maybe quick writing prompts that that aren't necessarily good. So you don't want to have, as we call it, gimmicky type essays. You want to make sure that they're straightforward, they're clear, concise, to the point. All right. You don't want to make them too funny. You don't want to make them too bland. All right. Let's look at 11. Trying to make too many points. Remember, you only have a certain amount of words that you have to write. Maybe it's 500 words or 1,000 words. Don't try to make too many points, because what you'll have is that you may make some great points. Maybe you have 10 points, but you're only able to complete 2 of them. And then what happens to the other 8 points? They get lost in the sauce. Ends up being a bad essay. They're tossing it in the trash. All right. Now, not being specific, you really have to be specific on what you're talking about. You cannot talk in general. You can't assume that they know what you're talking about. You can't assume that. You have to explain that to them. All right. So like I said in point 11, you don't want to make it too many points, but you definitely want to make sure that, they know where you're going on this one. All right. Don't cross the line. In terms of your essays, don't share too much. You don't want to get too personal. I know in this era, some of the youth, they do like to share a lot of things, but sometimes everything isn't for everybody. And remember, these people are really, they want to know about yourself and your writing level, but they don't need to get into too much of your personal stuff. So don't cross the line. All right. Repeating what's in the application form. Sometimes what people do is, they have an application. They put everything in there on the application. The sports they played, this, that, whatever. The essay isn't for you to reiterate everything. It's kind of like when you apply for a job and you fill out the application. It's the same thing on the resume. You can't do that with the essay. They expect to see something different other than what you write on your application. All right. Not having a connection with the application form. All right. You definitely want to make sure that you're connecting with it. So while you don't want to repeat information from the application form verbatim in your essay, it's usually a good idea to have continuity between the form and your essay. Want to make sure it's all lining up. If you write an essay about how your greatest person in life is playing the piano and how you spend 10 hours a week practicing, this hobby should be mentioned in the application form along with any performances you've given or awards you've won. It's a little example there. All right. 16, not going deep enough. All right. This is essays are what we call deep dives. All right. So you need to go deep enough where you're explaining to the people, but you don't go too deep. Because remember, essays are sometimes between 500 and 1,000 words. All right. Not getting any feedback. If it's kind of dangerous for you to write whole essays and you're thinking they're good, try to run it by some peers or some professors that may be able to give you some advice or some feedback on it, because maybe you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, but maybe it could use some corrections. Okay. For example, when I was young, I used to write papers and my mother used to go through it with the red pen. We call it the red pen treatment. She circled all the mistakes of the red pen, and then it had to go down and my father would have to type it, and then he would go through and check and see. So it used to bother me when I was a kid, but I really learned to appreciate it instead of me just writing it and turning in and getting a low grade or whatever. All right. Now that leads into our other point, getting too much feedback. You don't need every Tom, Jack, and Ali reviewing your essay, especially if they don't know what they're looking for. They don't know what you're talking about. Now, you know how people are. Everybody wants to give advice. Your grandmama wants to give advice. Your uncle wants to give advice. The neighbor next door, your cat, everyone's trying to give some advice. All right. So you need to find maybe 2 or 3 people that maybe you trust to read it and get some advice for them. But please don't get the whole neighborhood looking at your essay. They don't even know what they're looking at. All right. Trying to be extraordinarily different. You don't have to try to be anything that you're not. Okay. Don't try to do something just so strange that you're going to confuse the people that are even grading this essay. All right. Ruling out common topics. Okay. Sometimes there's some topics that basically they're repeated over and over again in admissions, and it just is what it is. It doesn't mean that you have to write about the same thing all the time. There might be some common topics here, but you don't want to just think that you're writing about something totally different. And it goes back to the point where you don't know how to put that together. And now you have an essay that's a mess. So common topics, maybe about your family life, maybe about things like that. It might sound kind of dull, but these are things that they want to hear about. All right. Forcing humor. Now, this is very interesting because, you have some people that think they're funny, but they're not. And some people are naturally funny. All right. If you're not naturally funny, don't try to use humor in your essay because they're not going to feel it. And second thing is that sometimes the essays aren't really a place for humor like that. Remember, you're writing a college admissions essay. You're not writing for the comic section in the newspaper. So you don't want to use too much. You don't want to use a lot of humor, especially if that's not what you usually do. And if it's not your personality, it's going to come off as just not genuine. All right. Writing the essay the night before it's due. Now, this is something you definitely don't want to do. Do not think that you're going to get up last minute and write that essay the night before it's due. It's going to be horrible because then how are you going to get people to review it and look over and you go through and make your points? All right. Don't wait till last minute to check the essay. You should be looking at your college applications and figuring out what's due when. And you should have this already lined up. So your essay should kind of like be lined up and ready to go. All right. Not the night before. You're going to have an essay that's going to get tossed in the trash. I'm just telling you because I'm not going to lie to you. All right. Now, forgetting to proofread. That's another one. All right. You always have to make sure that you proofread your essay. Don't think you're just going to type, write. You're not reading. You want to make sure that the sentences aren't run on. You want to make sure your points are making sense, that you didn't leave anything off. And a lot of people are afraid to proofread. If you are a bad proofreader, have somebody else proofread it. And that goes back to the point of having someone else looking over your essay. So please have people proofread it. All right. Failing the thumb test. All right. So as you're writing your essay, place your thumb over your name. Could you put another name at the top because it could be an essay written by many other students? All right. So basically, you want to make sure that your essay is not sounding like everybody else's. It's just bland and it's going straight. It has to be it has to be different because this is personalized for you. It's your life. They want to know about you. This is a chance, especially for you to get in good favor with the admissions committee, because like we said before, maybe your application isn't, the greatest. Your application might not be the strongest. Your grades might not be the strongest. Your test scores might not be the strongest. But your essay might be strong where it's going to make them consider you. All right? Not writing to the specific college. All right? Not writing to the specific college. Now, this could be a little bit funny because in America, we have an application called the Common App. All right? Now, with the Common App, what you can do is that it's an application form for multiple colleges, and you could put up a general essay about certain topics that certain colleges will look at. All right. But now, even with that general essay, some colleges want specific essays. How do you feel that you will benefit from going to this college? Why do you want to go to this college? All right. You have to start getting deeper. If it's a location, I want to be, for example, in the Los Angeles area to work with homeless people. I want to be in the Chicago area because it's a tech thing. So you have to get personal. It can't be, as we say in America, a cookie cutter essay where it can match any school you put it towards. Some of the higher end schools, they want specific essays to them. All right. And the admissions committee can go through and they can figure out what's what on that one. All right. Not spending time on the rest of your application. Remember, the essay is one part of your application. There's 3 other parts. All right. So don't just focus on the essay and forget about everything else. So we do have to make sure that we're going through that. So now those are the 25 points that will definitely get your essay tossed in the trash. All right. We want to make sure that this point is strong because, like I said before, the essays are a place where you could shine. And I will tell you from personal experience, I've gotten into universities where my grades might not have been the best, but I had a strong writing background. So I was able to make up for my loss with a strong essay. All right. So never underestimate the strong essay. And this is something that I know, just speaking with college admissions counselors and stuff, that essay, can make or break you. All right. So definitely we are going to have more essay writing workshops where we're going to have essays that we're going to pick apart, show examples of good essays, bad essays, what could be put in there, what cannot be put in there. I'm going to try to go over examples of essays for some of the best essays that were used to get admission to some of the best universities in America. Now, understand this here. I showed you this book earlier on called 50 Successful Ivy League Application Essays. And sometimes I go through this book and look at it. I know it's a little backwards. So I don't know because it's on the screen. Now, the topic can sometimes be a little bit misleading because just because that essay was good doesn't mean that the rest of the package was good. So also be wary. You might have a very good essay, but your other package, the other parts of your package just aren't good. So you want to make sure you have a total package. Looking over other essays is something else as well. Looking over essays that people have written before to different colleges. All right. Look over these things. And there's plenty of YouTube views and YouTube channels and other things which kind of delve into this topic as well. But like I said, the main thing is really just to stay focused and stay to the point. I realize with a lot of students, writing is a bit of a shortcoming. And there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, as old as I am, we come from the generation of handwriting, writing with paper and pen. Whereas this generation is kind of like the Google generation, not doing a lot of research and things. So one thing I've noticed is that the writing has kind of suffered a bit. All right. It's suffered a bit. So this is a bit of a challenge, and especially like with AI and things like that, people are self-generating essays and things like that. But, we want to be people of integrity and people of honor. So we want to try to do the right thing at all times. So we'll go more into different things that you can do for your college essay. We're going to have these workshops coming up soon, maybe 2, 3, 4 parts. And I think once you start getting used to that earlier on, by the time it comes for you to look at some of your college essays when you become a senior in high school, whatever, you're not going to have as much difficulty, because you'd be surprised at how many students don't even know they have to write a college essay. All right. So we will touch on that subject a little bit later. But for now, please just, go over some of these points that I reviewed in the video. I'm going to try to chop them up a little bit, maybe make some shorts out of them as well. And maybe we'll do some videos later on elaborating on each one of these topics. Probably do maybe some 1 minute or 2 minute small videos, which is going into each one of these essay points individually. All right. So we'll talk to you later. Happy writing.